They expected torture, but found apple pie instead. You fought for Hitler. You've believed every word he said, that Americans are savages, undisciplined, and weak. Then one day, you're captured, chained, and shipped across the ocean. The train screeches to a stop. You step out, and there he is, a real cowboy, sunburned, calm, and free. He doesn't spit on you. He tips his hat, and in that single moment, everything you believed about your enemy dies. Because this isn't the America you were warned about. This is the America that conquered its enemies without firing a shot, with food, kindness, and freedom. And if that shocks you, wait till you hear what happened next. Subscribe and step into my channel, Where War Meets Truth, May 1943. Hundreds of German POWs arrive in the American West, captured from North Africa, sent halfway across the world. They expect barbed wire, beatings, and starvation. Instead, they see electric lights, paved roads, clean towns, and smiling faces. The Reich had told them America was barbaric. But the truth? America was so rich, it could feed its enemies better than Germany fed its own soldiers. The buses rumble down a dusty Texas road. The heat outside is brutal. Waves of sunlight shimmer off the fences in the distance. Inside, dozens of German soldiers sit silent, staring out the window, waiting for the punishment they were promised by propaganda. Then, the buses turn a corner, and the scene that greets them makes no sense. This isn't a prison. It looks like a small American town. White wooden barracks, green lawns freshly cut, a baseball field, even a canteen with a welcome sign painted above the door. As the soldiers step down, blinking against the light, one of them mutters under his breath, "Are we in the right place?" Another laughs bitterly. Maybe it's a trick. They expect barking guards, rifle butts, and barbed wire. Instead, they're met with calm American MPs, handing out papers, guiding them politely through the gates. No shouting, no humiliation, just quiet efficiency. Inside, the surprises multiply. Hot showers, real ones, not the freezing hoses they knew from the front, flush toilets, clean bunks, 3 full meals a day with bread still warm from the oven. For men who'd spent weeks on battle rations, it's almost insulting, this much kindness from an enemy. Then comes the announcement that leaves them stunned. An American sergeant stands before them, clipboard in hand. "You'll work 8 hours a day," he says, "and get paid like an American private." At first, there's silence, disbelief thick in the air. Then a ripple of murmurs. Paid? Prisoners of war, getting wages. The sergeant continues, almost casual. "You'll be assigned to nearby farms, factories, or ranches. You'll eat what we eat, work what we work, but you follow the rules, and you'll be treated fair." One of the Germans, a former school teacher from Munich, whispers to his comrade, "They're following the Geneva Convention, even for us." And that's when it hits them. This enemy, the one they'd been told was savage and soulless, was playing by the rules. Not just the written ones, but the moral ones. Days pass. They're taken to cotton fields, lumber yards, and cattle ranches across the American West. The sun is the same one that burned over North Africa, but everything else is different. American farmers hand them cold lemonade at lunch. Children wave from pickup trucks. One farmer even lends his hat to a German worker after seeing him wipe sweat from his eyes. It's not paradise. They're still prisoners, but it's civilized. And for the first time, many begin to question everything they'd been told. At night, in their bunks, the conversations shift. "What if the Reich was wrong?" one man says quietly. "What if freedom isn't weakness, but strength?" The irony runs deep. The very soldiers sent to prove Nazi superiority are now learning decency from the people they were taught to despise. When letters come from home, stories of bombed cities and hunger, the contrast becomes unbearable. They are captives, yes, but they're eating better than their families. They're being treated better than their own soldiers on the Eastern Front. Some feel guilt, some feel confusion, but all of them feel something they hadn't in years: humanity. In this land of cowboys and open skies, the war feels far away, and in quiet moments, when they share a cigarette with an American guard or watch the sunset over the camp fence, they realize something extraordinary. America hadn't just captured their bodies, it was quietly winning their hearts. The next morning, the sound of boots crunches on dry earth. The German POWs stand in rows, waiting for orders. But instead of soldiers in helmets, they see men in denim, with sunburned faces and wide-brimmed hats. Farmers, ranchers, not warriors, workers. One of them, a tall Texan with weathered hands, steps forward. He doesn't shout, he doesn't even frown. He just looks the Germans in the eye, wipes the dust from his hand and says, "In Texas, men shake hands before working together." There's a pause. The German hesitates, unsure if it's a trick. But the rancher's eyes are calm, steady. So he reaches out and shakes it, and in that single moment, something invisible breaks. The fear, the pride, the war. It all feels far away. Hours later, under the burning Texas sun, the scene could have come from another world. German POWs bend beside Mexican, laborers, black sharecroppers, and poor white farmers. The field stretches to the horizon, endless cotton, endless sweat, no ranks, no flags, just men working the land together. The Nazi idea of racial superiority doesn't survive that field, because here everyone sweats the same, everyone eats the same. And when the lunch bell rings, they all head toward the same mess tent. Inside, the smell of beef stew fills the air. A Mexican woman named Rosa ladles food into tin bowls, one after another, smiling, teasing, motherly. She serves everyone without question, the locals, the prisoners, the guards. When she places a slice of apple pie onto a German soldier's plate, he looks at it in disbelief. Apple pie, the symbol of everything American. Something he'd once mocked in propaganda cartoons. Now it's on his plate, served by kindness, not conquest. He doesn't understand her words, but when Rosa pats his shoulder and says, "Eat, mijo," he understands something far deeper. That humanity speaks its own language. As they eat beneath the shade of an old oak, laughter breaks out. Not German, not English, just laughter, pure, tired, human. And somewhere, in that moment, Hitler's war ends, not with bombs, but with a handshake, a meal, and the sound of men realizing they were never so different after all. In Amarillo, Texas, the heart of cowboy country, the Germans see something they've never seen before. Real cowboys, not the gunslinging, outlaws from Nazi newsreels, but men who live by the land. Quiet, tough, sunburned, free. When the POWs arrive at the ranches, they're handed ropes instead of rifles. The Americans teach them to saddle horses, to ride, to fix broken fences, to herd cattle across the open plains. At first, the Germans move stiffly, awkwardly. They're soldiers, trained for precision, not chaos. The horses spook them. The lasso confuses them. A few fall hard into the dust to the laughter of the Texans. But it's not cruel laughter, it's the kind that welcomes. A cowboy named Tom slaps one on the back and says, "Don't worry, soldier, even Texans fall." Off a horse once, something in his tone, that easy humor, that fairness, disarms them. So they keep trying. Day after day, under the blazing sun, the prisoners learn to ride, to patch fences, mend saddles, cook beans over a fire. And slowly, the fear fades, the pride softens. They start to laugh. The same hands that once gripped rifles now toss hay, mend ropes, and guide horses through wide open pastures. And somewhere between the dust and the sweat, enemies become workers, and workers become friends. There's a rhythm to it all. The clatter of hooves, the smell of leather, the crack of the lasso, and beneath it, a new kind of respect. The Germans begin to admire the Americans' discipline, not the kind born from force, but from freedom. The Cowboys, in turn, start seeing the Germans not as enemies, but as men far from home. At night, they share stories around campfires. A harmonica plays softly in the background, sometimes a German tune, sometimes a country ballad. Language, barriers fade in the glow of firelight. One night, a cowboy passes a cigarette to a POW and says, "You ain't bad for a German." The POW smiles. "You ain't bad for a cowboy." They laugh. Two men who should have hated each other, now united by the same dust, the same hunger, the same sky. It's here, in the American West, that the true defeat of Nazi pride takes place, not through bullets or bombs, but through dignity, humility, and work. Because on these ranches, no man is above another, and for the first time, the Germans experience a kind of freedom that no propaganda ever described. That winter, the letters begin to flow across the ocean. German POWs sit by dim lanterns, writing home from Texas, Oklahoma, Montana. Ink smudges on paper. Words carefully chosen because censors will read every line. They tell their families, "The Americans are not what we were told." They describe the food, the music, the work. But they never mention the abundance, because who would believe it? How could they explain that the enemy gave them warm clothes, fair wages, and freedom of worship, while their own cities burned beneath Allied fire? How could they describe that, in the heart of the enemy's land, they'd found something Germany had lost: humanity without ideology, strength without cruelty? One soldier writes, "They treat us like men, not like Nazis, just men." And that, more than any victory or defeat, was what changed them. When the war finally ends and the gates open, many walk free with heavy hearts. They are going home, but part of them will stay behind, in the land of wide skies and honest work. Years later, some do return, not as prisoners, but as immigrants. They build farms, marry, raise families. A few even settle near the very ranches where they once toiled in captivity, and when asked why, they all say the same thing: "Because it was here that I learned what freedom really means." The story of the German POWs in the American West isn't just about war. It's about what happens after the guns fall silent. It's a reminder that mercy can conquer where hatred never could. Because sometimes the most powerful victory is kindness. December 1944. In Arizona, 25 German sailors dig a tunnel and escape, hoping to reach Mexico. They dream of freedom, but the maps they used are from 1880. The river they plan to sail down is dry. They collapse in the desert, starving, hallucinating. When one of them stumbles into a gas station, the old American owner gives him water, a sandwich, and calls the authorities. The German breaks down in tears. He's been captured again, but treated with more mercy than he ever saw in war. 45. The war ends. The POWs are sent home. But for many, home is gone. Cities destroyed. Families lost. Years later, some return to America, not as prisoners, but as immigrants. They work on ranches, open machine shops, raise families. Men who once wore the swastika now ride as Texas cowboys, because here they learned something the Reich never taught them: that true strength doesn't come from hate. It comes from humanity. If this story surprised you, imagine how many more lies the war told. Subscribe to WW2 Horizon, where we uncover the forgotten truths that changed hearts, not just battles.